Peace, everybody. This is Akeem L from Hindsight Radio. Um, I wanted to go over this Senate Congressional Record 76 with you. I'm going to scroll up to the top of this document. Um, and there it is. This is a 100th Congress, first session, Senate Congressional Resolution 76. This was the resolution to acknowledge the Iroquois Confederation of Nations to the development of the United States Constitution and to reaffirm the continuing government-to-government relationship between Indian tribes and the United States established in the Constitution. So basically, this document is going to tell you how the Constitution came to play. Now, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to read the most important stuff. Um, you know, this is the concurrent resolution here, and I'll just scroll down. Uh, I'm not going to read that. You can read that yourself. I'll leave a link in the description. But I want to go to where there were some statements made, specifically the statement of Honorable Orrin Lyons, Chief Onondaga Nation, Nedro, New York, accompanied by Gregory Shave, ethno-historian, Six Nations of the Iroquois Confederation. So let's read that. And I might get some of these pronunciations wrong, so forgive me on that. It says, Mr. Lyons, thank you, Senator Inaye. Again, it is an honor and a pleasure to address the Senate Select Committee on Indian Affairs concerning Senate Congressional Resolution 76. In recognition to the Iroquois Confederacy contribution to the Constitution of the United States. I have titled this discussion, The Land of the Free and the Home of the Brave, and I'm going to discuss the early history prior to the coming of the white man on this continent, which receives little attention in the history of this country. But it was in these early times that the development of democratic processes came about on this land. And I would like to give you our history, a very short history, of course, but it would deal with those times. So I shall begin. Upon the continent of North America prior to the landfall of the first white man, a great league of peace was formed, the inspiration of a prophet called the Peacemaker. I'd advise you to go look the Peacemaker up. He has some similar characteristics or similar background to what we call Jesus Christ today. He was a spiritual being fulfilling the mission of organizing warring nations into a confederation under the great law of peace. The principles of this law are peace, equity, and justice, and the power of the good minds. With the help and support of a like-minded man called Ahayuwatha, whom some people now call Hiawatha, an Onondaga by birth and Mohawk by adoption. He set about the great work of establishing a union of peace under the immutable natural laws of the universe. He came to our lands in our darkest hour when the good message of how to live had been cast aside and naked power ruled, fueled by vengeance and bloodlust. A great war of attrition engulfed the lands, and women and children cowered in fear of their own men. The leaders were fierce and merciless. They were fighting in blind rage. Nations, homes, and families were destroyed, and the people were scattered. It was a dismal world of dark disasters where there seemed to be no hope. It was a raging proof of what humanity, man, is capable of when the laws and principles of life are thrown away. The Peacemaker came to our lands bringing the message of peace, supported by Hiawatha. He began the great work of healing the twisted minds of men. This is a long history, too long to recount today in this forum. Suffice it to say, it's a great epic that culminated on the shores of the lake now called Onondaga, where, after many years of hard work, some say perhaps even 100 years, he gathered the leaders who had now become transformed into rational human beings into a grand council, and he began the instructions of how a great league of peace would work. He set up the families into the clans. Then he set up the leaders of the clans. He established that League of Peace would be matriarchal and that each clan would have a clan mother. Thus, he established in law the equal rights of women. He raised the leaders of each clan, two men, one the principal leader, and the second his partner. They worked together for the good of the people. He called these two men Hyana, or the good minds, the peacemakers. They were to represent their clans in council. Thus, he established the principle of representations of people in government. So, let me stop there. It shows you that with this setup, our ancestral setup, women already had rights. They didn't need to fight for any rights through our ancestral background. It wasn't until this new government was formed that women lost their rights. You see? All right, but let's keep going. Henceforth, he said, these men will be chosen by the clan mother freely using her insight and wisdom. A choice must first be ratified by the consensus of the clan. If they agree, then her choice must be ratified by full consensus of the chiefs council of their nation. Then her choice must be ratified, given over to the council of chiefs, who then call the grand council of the Great League of Peace, and they will gather at the nation that is raising this leader. They would work together in ceremony. He made two houses in each nation. One he called the Long House, and the other he called the Mud House. They would work together in ceremony and council, establishing the inner source of the vitality and dynamics necessary for community. He made two houses in the Grand Council, one called the Younger Brothers, consisting of the Oneida and the Cayuga nations, later enlarging to include the Tuscarora. The other was the Elder Brothers, consisting of Mohawks with the little title keepers of the Eastern Door, the Onondaga, whom he made the fire keepers, and the Senecas, who were the keepers of the Western Door. Now he made the house, and the rafters of the house were the laws that he laid down, and he called us Haudenosaunee, the people of the Long House. Now the candidate for the clan title is brought before the Grand Council and will be judged on his merits, and they have the right of veto. If they agree, then he may take his place in Grand Council, but before that, he is turned back to the people, and they are asked if they know a reason why this man should not be leader and hold the title. Thus, the process is full circle back to the people. Thus, the peacekeeper established the process of raising leaders for governance, and by this process, a leader cannot be self-proclaimed. He is given his title and his duties, and his authority is derived from the people, and the people have the right to remove him for malfeasance of office. He established the power of recall in the clan mother, and it is her duty to speak to him if he is receiving complaints from the people concerning his conduct. The clan mother shall speak to him 3 times, giving sufficient time between warnings for him to change his ways. She shall have a witness each time. The first will be her niece, in other words, a woman. The second shall be the partner of the chief in council or the principal leader, as the case may be. And the third and final warning comes with a man who holds no title, and he is coming for the chief's wampum and for the chief's emblem of authority, the antlers of a deer. Thus, he established the power or recall vested in the people. The leader must be free from any crime against a woman or child. He cannot have killed anybody and cannot have blood on his hands. He must believe in the ways of the Longhouse. His heart must yearn for the welfare of the people. He must have great compassion for his people. He must have great tolerance, and his skin must be 7 spans thick to withstand the accusations, slander, and insults of the people as he goes about his duties for the people. He has no authority but what the people give him in respect. He has no force of arms to demand the people obey his orders. He shall lead by example, and his family shall not influence his judgment. He carries his title for life or until he is relieved of it by his bad conduct or ill health. He now belongs to the people. At the first council, there were 50 original leaders, and their names became offices to be filled by each succeeding generation. Now, let me stop there. It says 50 original leaders. Now, how many states do we have? Okay, I'm just giving y'all a picture. Let me continue. So, it continues up to this very day. The great Peacemaker had established a government of absolute democracy, the constitution of the great law intertwined with the spiritual law. We then became a nation of laws. The people came of their own free will to participate in the decision making of National Council and the Grand Council. Thus, he instilled in the nations the inherent rights of the individual with the process to protect and exercise these rights. Let me stop for a minute just to show you. We have 50 states now here. It's not a coincidence that your ancestors had 50 leaders. I'm trying to tell you, all of this land belongs to your ancestors, the indigenous people of this land. And I know they got a misrepresentation of how the people look, but I'm telling you. And I'm going to prove it later on by showing you a constitution written by your ancestors. The pictures. I have pictures. Here we go. Sovereignty then began with the individual, and all people were recognized to be free, from the very youngest to the eldest. It was recognized and provided for in the great law of peace that the liberty and equality demanded great moral fortitude, and it was the nature of the free man to defend freedom. Thus, freedom begat freedom, and great societies of peace prevailed, guided by the leaders, the good minds. The men were restrained by moral conduct, and the family with the woman at its heart was the center of Indian societies and nations. Now, the great Peacemaker said the symbol of Haudenosaunee shall be the great white pine, with four white roots of truth extending to the four cardinal directions, and those people who have no place to go shall follow these roots back to the tree and seek shelter under the long leaves of the white pine that we shall call the great tree of peace. I shall place an eagle atop the tree to be ever vigilant against those who would harm this tree. And the eagle shall scream his warnings to our chiefs, whose duty is to nurture and protect this tree. Now, isn't an eagle used on coins and money? And some in some of the symbols and the seals of this country, they're showing you where they got these symbols from, where they got these things from. They didn't create them. They came from your ancestors who were already here, who were already part of the. So they got these things from your ancestors. All of these symbols that they're using, they're not original. Let's keep going. Now that this is done, the chiefs, clan mothers, and faith keepers being raised, and the great law being firmly established in place, he said, I now uproot this tree and command you to throw all your weapons of war into this chasm to be carried by the undercurrents of water to the furthest depths of the earth, and now I place this tree back over the chasm, throwing away forever war between us, and peace shall prevail. This is what prevailed upon this great turtle island at the first landfall of the white man. He found here in full flower free nations, guided by democratic principles, all under the authority of natural law, the ultimate spiritual law of the universe. This was then the land of the free and the home of the brave. So they didn't even get these terms, land of the free home. This is all your ancestral terms. Okay? Sovereigns and sovereignty, as understood by the Europeans, related to the power of kings and queens, of royalty to rule men as they saw fit, to enslave human beings and control in total the lives and property of their subjects. Strange indeed it must have been for those immigrants to find a land with nothing but free people and free nations. The impact has reverberated down through history to this time. As Felix Cohen put it, the Indian people had Americanized the white man. So people get on me. Why are you using American? That's a European term. Just know it's not. American is our term, our ancestors' terms. Okay? And we Americanized the people who came over here and colonized. Now, I have the Noah Webster 1828 Noah Webster's dictionary, which the term for American is copper colored people found here by the Europeans, now attributed to the Europeans who immigrated here. That's what American means. Copper colored races found here. Stop allowing people to call y'all black, Negroes, African Americans, all this craziness. This document is showing your indigenous heritage. Embrace it. Stop being fooled by the textbooks, because in the textbooks, they had the Indians as savages, scalpers, wearing cloths. They never told you that they had an organized government before what we call the United States of America, or United States as some people put it. They never told you this, and I'm reading this from a Senate congressional record. Available. It's free online. You can look it up. I just showed you. I'm going to leave the link. Let me keep going. The first treaty between the Indians and the white man took place at Schenectady, the place where the pines begin. It is now called Albany, New York. In 1613 or thereabout, it was a treaty that was the grandfather of all treaties, and it was called the Guswinter or the Two-Row Wampum. Look these terms up, because it's telling you that's the original or the grandfather. That treaty established our equal rights in this land and our separate and equal coexistence on this land between our two peoples. The canoe of the Indian and the boat of the white man going down the river of life in peace and friendship forever. The last three principles was memorialized in the great silver covenant chain, with the three binding us together forever. Peace and friendship forever. As long as the grass grows green, as long as the water runs downhill, and as long as the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, shall we hold this treaty. This is where those original words come from. It is this treaty that I brought today. It is this belt that I speak of. This is our canoe, the Indian people, their government, and their religions. This is our brother, the white man's boat, his religion, his government, and his people. Together, side by side, we go down the river of life in peace and friendship and mutual coexistence. As you know, we never come together. We are equal. Benjamin Franklin observed these differences in government and remarked, the care and labor of providing for artificial and fashionable wants, the sight of so many rich wallowing in superfluous plenty, whereby so many are kept poor and distressed for want, the insolence of office and the restraints of custom, all contrive to disgust the Indians with what we call civil society. See, they were civilized, as they would define it, even more civilized, because there was no kings and queens or monarchies who took control of the people and enslaved people. We didn't have that here. The way the government is run now is not how it's supposed to be run based off of these documents I'm reading. Let's keep going. These remarks he made in 1770. So we now come to the process of this transference of democratic ideas and ideals from the Indian to the white man. So it says transfer. So they're passing this on. It was a process of association of years of meetings, discussions, wars, and peace. Treaties became a process of relationships. Early America was steeped in Indian lore and social and political associations. There are long-standing interrelationships between the colonies and the Indian nation that surrounded them. It was our grandfather who took your grandfathers by the hand and urged them to form a union, such as ours, so that they may prosper at the Treaty of Lancaster in 1744. And it was Benjamin Franklin who took notes. at that treaty and became inspired to such a union. It was your grandfather who said to our chiefs at German Flats in 1775 that they would now take our advice and form such a union, plant a tree of peace in Philadelphia where all could seek shelter. See? 1776 is the Declaration of Independence. July 4th. See, they were given the blueprints on how to form government. They didn't know how to form okay, let's make sense. How can they form a government when they were coming from a monarchy? How can they know how to form a democracy if they were coming from a monarchy where there was just kings and queens? So they had to be taught. And they were taught by your ancestors. They never showed you this in the history books. Let me continue. As this thing gets deeper. Finally, it was our chiefs and leaders who first acknowledged you as a new and separate nation, independent and free, with these words. Brothers, the whole Six Nations take this opportunity to thank you that you have acquainted us with your determination in so public a manner, and we shall for the future consider you as a 13 independent states. So let me break this down. So it was 50 tribal leaders, which we know 50 means of all of the lands of what we call United States of America now, there was 50, right? So they let them form a separate nation called the 13 Independent States, aka the 13 colonies. So the 13 colonies or 13 independent states was formed off of the blueprints of the Iroquois Confederation of Nations. Okay? Let me keep going. And they gave a white belt, a row of wampum to commemorate this great occasion. The recognition was stated Friday, August 19, 1776 at German Flats Treaty. This was the culmination of a long history and association with the Haudenosaunee and the immigrants who became Americans. See, they were immigrants and they became Americans. So anybody who wants to dispute me on why I put that in my in my explanatory statements, that I am the true American. I am the indigenous, come from ancestry of indigenous Americans. Okay? All right? Your people went on to develop the Constitution of the United States, encompassing the symbols of our Constitution. Right? Encompassing the symbols of our Constitution. The bundle of arrows symbolizing the new 13 states. The leaves of the pine tree. The eagle that we placed upon the tree of peace. There it is. It's all facts right there. This and more we share as common history. Brothers, we now turn our faces toward the future and continue to wish you well in your endeavors as a nation. Perhaps it would be well for you to look back again at our principles of peace, justice, and equality, to grasp firmly our hand in recognition of our long association and heed the treaties that were made so long ago, that these treaties may continue to thrive for our posterity as we continue down the long journey to eternity and we continue our association as government to government. With that statement, I close the statement from the Haudenosaunee, and I thank you very much for your kind attention. The chairman, thank you very much, Chief Lyons. Dr. Shafe, do you have anything to add? Mr. Shafe, yes, Senator Anauye. I would like to thank you very much for inviting us here today. I am a young historian. I have dedicated myself to studying the roots of democracy and the history of this land. I must say that I was very impressed at the end of the Iran-Contra hearings when you gave your um, concluding remarks, Senator, when you said that much as the Constitutional Convention was presented with different views of the relationship of government and its citizens of 200 years, it is our form of government which is what gives us our strength. I think I think you were absolutely right. It is our form of government which gives us our strength. As a historian, I've been searching back for the roots of that form of government. What are the origins of democracy within this land? What are the roots of democracy on earth? As, I've, as I have traced through the historical records, I have found that those roots trace back to where the gentleman on my right, Chief Oren Lyons, comes from the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederation. I began researching the history of the Confederacy and relationship to the United States government 11 years ago when I uncovered a collection of original unpublished documents called the Morgan Papers. They included previously unknown letters written by George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, papers related to Benjamin Franklin, Patrick Henry, and also the private journal of George Morgan, who was one of the first Indian agents for the Continental Congress and helped to negotiate the first U.S. Indian peace treaty in 1776. I use I used to keep a time log of my research into this topic, which is before the committee today. A few years ago, I got up to 10,000 hours and I just quit counting. The evidence is overwhelming. I swear to you, my leader, I swear to the American people, I swear to the people from all around the world that the evidence to support Senate Congressional Resolution 76 is overwhelming. I presented about 75 pages of written testimony, but we could have presented thousands and thousands of pages. On April 19, 1776, John Hancock and Congress appointed George Morgan to be their Indian agent. They told him at that time that you are required to provide that a great peace belt, a peace belt with 13 diamonds and 2,500 wampum beads, be delivered to the leaders of the Western Indian nation. Our ancestors took that peace belt and delivered it to Chief Oren Lyons' ancestors. There was a duplicate belt which was also delivered to Lenni, Lenape, or Delaware Nation, who are the grandfathers of the Algonquin family of nations. At that time, the Iroquois and Algonquin peoples and the other Indian nations of this land truly held a balance of power within their hands. If they, at that crucial juncture in time, as the birth of America was about to emerge and had joined the British and attacked from the west as the British attacked from the east, the revolution clearly could have been crushed, and these United States of America might not have been created as we enjoy our rights and liberty under the Constitution today. Just before the founding fathers was about to make their Declaration of Independence, a delegation of his ancestors came before Congress. They came there to recognize the United States that was about to be born. They also were opening diplomatic relations between the revolutionary government and their own government. John Hancock and the members of Congress were so impressed by the ideas of democracy as expressed by these chiefs that I would like to share with you what John Hancock said on that day in 1776. He began by addressing his ancestors as brothers because the original relationship between the United States government and the Indian nations was a brother-to-brother relationship, a shoulder-to-shoulder relationship. And John Hancock said to the Iroquois ambassadors, "We hope the friendship that is between us and you will be firm and continue as long as the sun shall shine and the waters run, that we and you may be as one people and have but one heart, and be kind to one another like brethren." With George Morgan being the Indian agent representing the United States addressed the Indian nation, he said to them, "Brothers, we are not only inclined to do you justice in all things, but we wish to promote your happiness and to render you every service in our power if you tell us what you want. We therefore desire you to be wise and that your wise people will consider this matter well, but we wish to see you happy people and to live with you in friendship forever. Speak your minds free when you come to the treaty that we may understand you." I think that the freedom of speech is something that is fundamental to our society. It is one of the things that make us great as a people. The Onondaga ambassadors conveyed to John Hancock an Indian name. They called him Karadawan, which roughly translated means the great tree of liberty. The tree of peace, which Chief Lyons so eloquently described, under which the great Peacemaker inspired the warriors to bury their weapons, which may be the oldest historical evidence of an effort for disarmament in the history of the world. and then placed atop of it this sacred tree of peace. That tree of peace became a symbol for the American revolutionaries and became the tree of liberty. Atop that tree is the eagle as we look at the flag of these United States of America. That is to your right. Senator, top of it, we see that eagle. Before there is a wooden carving, and it shows the eagle, which is part of our national symbol, which within his talents is the olive branch, which symbolizes the tree as a symbol of peace. Also in his talents are these arrows, and part of what the Peacemaker did was he said that each nation represented it like an arrow, and one arrow standing alone might be broken easily, but he bound the five nations together, the five arrows. That was something that was impressed upon our founding fathers. So when they were designing our national emblem, they took this model from the Haudenosaunee. That is why in this wooden emblem, which is before you, we see these arrows, which are bound in the eagle's talons. At the very first Indian-U.S. peace treaty in 1776, there were certain promises that were made to the Indian nations. Our government promised their government that we would always respect their land rights. We promised that we would respect their right to justice. We also promised that their young men would never have to fight in our wars unless they volunteered to do so. Many of them have done so. There were Indian people who fought in the Revolutionary War, in the War of 1812, in the Civil War, as well as World War I and World War II, Korea and Vietnam. They have fought to defend this land. Also, they should, I believe, have retained that right to serve as they wish. I think also that the treaties themselves, what is the Constitution? To me, the Constitution of the United States is like a treaty between the people and our government. I think that the Senate Revolution is so important to be passed because I think it will give a message to the world that we of the United States government really honor our treaties with the Indian nations, our treaties with our allies, and also the treaty that we are about to sign with the Soviet Union. I think that Senate Congressional Resolution 76 is kind of a model of understanding. I think too, as I have looked into the U.S. Constitution and compared it with the Iroquois Great Law of Peace, one of the things that we did was we took the U.S. Constitution and we placed it in one column. Then side by side, we selected appropriate clauses from the Iroquois Great Law of Peace. It's just showing you how they constructed it. It's right there, side by side. I was absolutely astounded, Senator, by the similarities between the documents, the separation of powers, the division of our government. The fundamental structure of the United States government clearly was modeled on the Iroquois Grand Council. Also, I think some of the differences were very interesting. Fundamentally, the rights of women. I just talked about that earlier. I think that if the entire Great Law of Peace had been adopted in greater entirety within the U.S. Constitution, women within this land would not have had to wait so long to have had the right to vote. They would not have had to wait so long to have fundamental rights. I think also that the qualifications of leadership are very important. One of the qualities of leadership within the Iroquois society is that, first and foremost, their leaders must be honest in all things. I think that in your remarks at the recent Iran-Contra hearings, I must tell you that it really helped to reinforce my sense of patriotism, my sense of pride in America. You underscored the fundamental principles of this land. Having researched very carefully and continue to research because I am a very young man. The fundamental principles of democracy, I think that it is right of we the people to have the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression. That if we as people express those rights and really live up to those principles, it will create a model for people of all around the world. I think also within the Constitution, the Commerce Clause is very important, and its relationship with taxation or the exclusion of taxation towards native people. In conclusion, I would like to say that the Iroquois, the Haudenosaunee Grand Council, is perhaps the oldest participatory democracy on earth. I spent 3 hours presenting the evidence before the National Indian Education Association. This is a body of our 1,000 of the top Indian educators in country. They unanimously passed a resolution supporting Senate Congressional Resolution 76. They also felt it was very important that the curriculum for our public school system from kindergarten to grade 12 to the university level must now be rewritten. This history of this land must be rewritten to recognize the remarkable contribution of the original people of this land, to symbolize that native peoples are planting trees as symbols of peace all across this land. They have planted trees of peace at the state capitol in California, at the state capitol in New York. Next September, there will be a tree of peace planted in the mall here in Washington, which I hope you may be able to attend. Perhaps there might be a tree of peace planted in your home state, in Washington, in every state of the union, every capital on the earth, because my grandpa told me to dream for the best, but always be prepared for the least. At the very best, perhaps the dream of the peacemaker, a world without war, might one day come true, but at the very least, we will plant many beautiful trees upon the earth and spread the fundamental principles of democracy in this land. Thank you very much. And I'll stop right there. What other evidence do you need? This land, this government was created off of indigenous peoples' ways. And not only was their idea stolen as if it was an original idea from the founding fathers, because this is what they teach. Founding fathers, these great men, they did this. No, they did not do it. They did it by assimilating and copying off your ancestors. And here's the proof right here. Now, I told you I would show you proof, right? Here's an extract. Let me make this bigger. Of give me a second. Here's an extract of the Louisiana Constitution. I know I'm not sure what's happening when I stretch the screen, if this is still being shown. So what I'll do is do it within this window. There, these are all black men. And right here, or what we call black, or these are indigenous men of this land. 1868 AD, 1868. This is the Constitution they created. They say Reconstructed Constitution of the state of Louisiana. So how did all these guys get so educated to create it? These are men who are of mature age, created this. These are your ancestors. They already had experience creating constitutions. But see, they give you little bits and pieces, but you have to piece this stuff together to realize what's really going on. And if you weren't listening carefully, you need to go back and read that thing, because there's a lot of remedy when it comes to your nationality in there. A lot of remedy. And some of y'all are going, I've been showing y'all how to do y'all name change, and they will turn you down for whatever reason. But you can read this document saying you are free to express yourself. And if you want to express yourself by correcting your name from that all cap to the upper and lower, you have the right, and no court of law can deny you that. See, what it is, you guys are not using the right tools to get your stuff done. You're not saying the right things. Y'all stuck when they say no. Nah, don't get stuck. Listen, I have a right. A judge don't have a right to tell you what your name should be. He doesn't. You're in a proceeding where it's just you, and if nobody else on the other side is challenging you, it's not his job to practice law and challenge you on that. You have a right to express yourself so freely. They take your name, put it in all caps without your consent. That is not your proper religious name, your proper ancestral name. Your mom gave you that name, your mom and dad. That is your ancestral, comes from your lineage name. And then they pervert it into something so that they can benefit from it. This is why I read this. There's remedy here all around. But like I said on my shows, the remedy that I put forth will only be in my private classes. I have limited spots for my second class. Go to akimel.com, click that premium membership. It's discounted right now. It's originally, uh, it was a higher price. Right now, go there, see it, get on it. That includes 1 year premium membership where I'm showing you where to go to set your trusts up, how to set up your 3 trusts properly, then how to do your 1041s, and give you the forms, the templates on all of that. The templates for your UCC and your bonds, all of that done properly. This stuff has been vetted and been proven, and everybody who has done it is operating without problems. Don't let these people fool you with these bogus fee discharge claims. Okay? But that's it. I just want to hit y'all with that. Tune into my show every Tuesday, 7 p.m. blogtalkradio.com/hindsight 2020. All the links to everything you need, even these documents, will be in the description. Peace.